So today on the podcast, I have Gabby. Gabby is my guest today. Gabby is one of my co-workers. We work together. We're both hairstylists. We both have curly hair.
One of the many things.
One of the many things. Gabby has agreed to come onto the podcast and talk about what God has done with her pain. And so I'm really grateful for her willingness to share all of that with us. So I'm excited to jump in. So, Gabby, let's start with like your childhood. What was your what was 8-year-old Gabby up to?
So 8 years old, probably playing softball. Definitely playing softball. Happy for the most part. My mom and dad were still together at that point.
Are you originally from North Carolina?
Yes, from Pittsboro, North Carolina.
Oh, nice.
I was born in Chapel Hill at UNC. My birthday is March the 6th.
Girl, might as well give them your social security number.
27 years old.
Oh.
But yes, born and raised North Carolina.
We've moved to a different place now, and I think that the sound quality is going to feel a lot better. So let's pick up where we last left off. The last time we were talking, you were talking about being, playing softball, being from North Carolina, all of that stuff. So, like, what were you like as a kid, though? Like, what did you like to do? Just out of curiosity.
I literally, from the age 8 or 9, I literally played softball. It was all I did.
What did you love about softball?
I loved the friends that I made. I'm very competitive. I've always been competitive.
Oh, we need to play a board game together. I am so competitive. And Martin will not, he will not be competitive. So I need someone,
I will, Keeks.
We will hurt each other's feelings. Uno.
Yes. So just competitive, even outside of softball. With my sisters and my brother. Always wanting to beat them at something or let's race to do this.
Getting them somewhere. I love that. So that's what you loved about it, was just the ability to kind of like best someone.
Yes, and also just best myself. I'm always I've always tried to one up myself.
Yeah.
Whether it's myself or with somebody else or.
Yeah, like beat your time, beat the last time you did something. Like improvement has always been really important to you.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. That built into your character. Everyone's very different. It's nice to get a little piece of every person and see where they lay. What else did you do as a kid? Like, did you have like a favorite meal? Did you
macaroni and cheese and baked beans?
Mushy stuff, but right now you're such a texture person when you eat now. How are you?
And I still love it to this day. But my mama would make me macaroni and baked beans because I was a very picky eater growing up. Didn't eat no vegetables, no fruits, and the one thing they could always get me to eat was macaroni and cheese and bush baked beans.
But specific,
Bush.
Not sponsored. I need to say that right now. This is not sponsored. I have not seen a dime
from Bushes.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice. So would you say that when you were a kid, do you feel like you would go to church or you had a relationship with God? Like, how was that? What was that like for you?
God was in my life all through my life. My great grandfather was a pastor.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. I never knew.
My mama and my mom grew up in the church with him, traveling from church to church while he was being the pastor there. So, and we would go to church. So I grew up going to church almost every Sunday.
That's incredible. I never knew that about you, Gabby. That's amazing.
2 different churches, actually. It would either be my mama's church, which is on my mom's side, or it would be my grandma's church, which is on my dad's side of my family. So I had 2 different churches we were going to.
So you were brought up in the church at an early age.
Yeah, we were.
That's incredible. And what was that experience like for you? Like, what was your Sunday routine or day look like? Do you remember? And are there any like core memories that you, every time you think about that time, anything comes to you?
Yes, we would always got McDonald's that morning for breakfast. My mom would always stop and get us McDonald's. And I would get a butter biscuit and a hash brown. And Skylar actually, that's her order at McDonald's these
A
days.
butter biscuit and a hash brown.
We've kind of evolved to a bacon biscuit, but
Evolved.
so that brings me back to those Sunday mornings, and then also every Sunday whenever we did go to church with Papa Rich, Papa Rich is who was the preacher. We would get lunch with him after church. I always remembered that, and we would always go to Wendy's.
Ooh. McDonald's and Wendy's.
Yep,
I love that.
And it's just, I don't know.
That is what you think of when you remember that time. Oh, that's amazing. And did you, like, for example, for me growing up as a child, my relationship with God was more of like, I know that there is a higher being, but I didn't know him, if that makes any sense. Like, I knew there was a God, but I grew up Catholic, so my I didn't have like grandparents on each side, so I was more. But like, what was that like for you? Like, were you taught the Bible? Were you reading it at an early age? Like, how was that for you?
Not necessarily like reading the Bible, but hearing it read to me, like as in a children's Bible story, or going to Sunday church while my
parents
or specifically my mom grandparents were in church, and we would go to Sunday school while they were doing the adult church. But outside of church, if we couldn't make it to church, Mama would pull out a children's Bible, and we would read a couple stories from that and eat breakfast there. And then at Grandma's church, or my dad actually used to read the Bible a little bit, and so
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Is there ever like a Bible story that stuck with you? Like, for example, for me, my mom had like this like kid Bible. It was in Spanish, but like she would read it to me, and it was very graphic, or like really beautifully written or drawn. And there's this one. Oh my gosh, I don't remember right now off the top of my head, but it's the story where like, like God tells a husband to grab his wife and his daughters and to leave and not to turn around, and the wife turns around apparently, and she becomes like a pillar of salt. Like she gets basically turned into stone, but like of salt. And in the book, I just remember that all you see is her like frozen looking back, and her husband and her daughters can't look back. Like they can't turn around and grab her. Like they just have to keep moving forward. I remember as a kid that terrified me. I was like, oh my gosh.
Like the pictures or like the story?
No, like just like, well, the picture, because I would always stare at this frozen salt lady, and that, I don't know, it just stuck with me. Every time I thought about that book, that was the first thing that would come to mind. Is there anything good that you received from that time, or any story that you're like, oh, that's funny, or that's interesting? Or
I can't put my finger on the name. I might be about to say the name, but it was a story about a robe with many colors on it, and it was in one of the children's Bible stories, and I just loved that because the robe was so
colorful. Was it a gift?
It was a gift.
I know. I think it's
I can't remember what.
It's the story about. I think it's a story about Joseph. Joseph, I'm pretty sure it's Joseph, not Joshua. Joseph, and his father gives him a really beautiful, colorful robe.
Yes.
And because he favors his son, and I think his brothers were jealous, and so they're kind of mean to him afterwards, and they sell him off to slavery. And he has a pretty bad life afterwards over that robe. But like, I know what you're talking about. It's a really good story, though. It's a very amazing biblical story. Oh wow! I had no idea that was something that you grew up with, Gabby.
Yeah.
Like, that's incredible. I love that. It's just a little nugget I didn't realize.
Yes.
So what was it like growing up? Like once you enter your adolescent years, the angsty teenager years where my mom and dad don't understand me.
Yeah.
I know everything. Everything's annoying. I don't miss being a teenager.
Girl, me neither. Especially not these days. So I played softball from 4th to 8th grade or 9th grade, and after that, that's just when start rebelling, and like you said, you're not gonna tell me anything, and I mean, but for the most part, I was a really happy kid. But it's just whenever just started hanging around with the wrong people is whenever I really started to rebel.
Yeah. And so when you started to rebel, what was that like? What were the things that took place? Like, would you go past your curfew? Were you sneaking out? Like, what was that like? What was your version of rebelling?
Both of those things, sneaking out, staying out past my curfew, just not listening, but I didn't really have I had a great home life, but the discipline aspect side of I did get disciplined for it, but in the meantime, it wasn't very strict until it happened, you know?
Yeah. It wasn't like you had like a loose leash until you did something and then it was yanked.
Yes.
Basically, like, let's adjust that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, moving further into your story, around, like, would you say around what age do you feel like you stepped out of softball Gabby, going to church Gabby, into more of like a little bit grown Gabby, a little bit like rebellious Gabby? Like, around what age do you feel like you made that official transition where like that chapter of your life closed and this new chapter opened in your book?
I would say around 14, 15, like starting high school, ninth grade, because just the friends I was hanging out with, they smoked pot, so that was the cool thing to do. Skip school. That was the cool thing to do. So I'd say it was around ninth grade, and that's when I stopped playing softball. So I think whenever I think back to it, it's like, man, I wonder what would have happened if I would have continued playing softball, so.
Who would I be now?
Yeah. But I also wouldn't be here with you.
I know. You would have such an incredible story to tell. I think about that a lot, too. I think about, like, my son is such a blessing to me, but I got pregnant at 16, and I've thought about, like, even before my pregnancy, like, what would have my life been had I taken school a little bit more serious and hadn't been focused on the wrong things. And, like, I remember when I was pregnant, I wanted to put my pregnancy on pause. Like, I still wanted my son. I was like, if I could pause it and have him at a later date when I'm older, that would be fantastic.
If only, right?
But it didn't happen that way. So sometimes I do think, like, man, like, had I been ready for him, would I have been a better mom when I got him? Like, because I had him at 17, so I was still very immature. I was still, like, doing my own thing, and he deserved so much more attention than what I feel like I gave him. So sometimes I think about the same thing, like, oh, I wonder what would have happened if I had my son now versus back then. And I think you can relate with Sky.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yes, that's amazing.
It's like mom guilt.
Mom guilt is a thing.
Yes. It's like,
I know. There's so many things you wish you could do differently, but then again, like, you make up for it now and you push forward. I think this is a good, like, break point. Let's take a quick break. We collect ourselves and we'll jump back in and get to meet Gabby, the rebellious teenager.
Yes.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. Sorry. After our delightful break and my cough, we are back into your interview. So, talk to me about rebellious Gabby. Talk to me about her. What that was like, how you went from her to where you are now, and all that good stuff.
All right. So, it probably started around like age 14, 15, high school. Trying to fit in. I mean, I actually had really great friends. We just didn't make the best choices, you know. Yeah. And so it just started, smoking pot, skipping school, the usual high schooler thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, skipping school turned into skipping school multiple days in a row.
Just being almost totally absent.
And then it just brought me to the point where I ended up getting pregnant with Sky when I was 17.
Oh, wow.
And had her right.
So you really understand what I meant when I said, like, the attention would have been different. Yeah.
Absolutely. And had her right after I turned 18. And I feel like after I had Sky, I was good for a little bit on, like, the rebellious part. But after a little bit, I just started being really absent, just being even more rebellious with, just really making bad choices at that time.
And what would you consider bad choices?
So
Because and I don't mean this in like a bad way, but like I feel like a lot of the times we have a habit of like what's the word, idolizing bad habits.
Mm.
Like teenagers especially
Mm-hmm.
idolize like, oh, like you know you guys like slept together, like, oh wow, how cool, or you're
Mm-hmm.
smoking, or like you're dating an older guy, like we
Yes.
idolize these bad
Yeah,
things.
like cigarettes or
Yeah,
something
and
like
all those
that.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in the high school, it was the cigarettes and weed, alcohol, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But once I got out of high school, it turned into harder drugs.
Mm.
Just the people I was hanging around, that's what
Were you scared at first when you tried those harder drugs?
I was scared. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was very scared. I remember, I can laugh about it now. It was the first time I had ever tried meth,
Mm.
and it was in a Walmart parking lot.
Girl, not the Walmart parking
Girl,
lot.
the Walmart parking lot. And it, like, my heart was beating so fast. Like, I remember.
Did you feel like you had to do it, or were you just like, this is something I want to do, but I'm like scared? Kind of like skydiving.
I think it was both.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to do it, and felt like I needed to, because the people I was around, I felt like, I always hung out with older people.
Yeah. So that gave you a sense of security too, because they're older.
Mm-hmm.
They know better, and if they're doing it, then it must be fine.
Yeah. But, at the same time, looking back on it now, I'm like, I was old enough to know better too, It was, so that's why I say like 50-50, like 50% I wanted to do it, 50% I did it because I felt like I needed to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the times, like, you look back and you're like, well, I was old enough. I should have known better. But a lot of the times it's like, you know better now because you did it then, and you can really see the difference.
And at that point in my life, God was not in my life at all.
I was just gonna ask that, like, how do you feel His presence in your life, or your relationship with Him, or even your acknowledgement of Him? How was that?
I felt like as the older I got, the less cool it was to go to church, and yeah. I mean, that was just how it was, and how I don't know.
It's not trendy. To love
trendy,
Jesus,
yeah. Like,
which I wish it was. Like, it's
I
so
know
cool,
it is.
But,
it is. Now that I'm older, I'm like, man.
It's so it is.
And
I think it is like a weird. It depends on the crew that you're in with, because I've seen teenagers at churches who are like, best example is like Martin grew up among the teenager groups that are like, Jesus is cool, we love Jesus, so you can see it in his life differently than our lives. So it's just interesting. Like, you're right. Like, growing up, it's not cool to be like, Jesus. It's more of like, oh, like, let's go out, let's go party, let's go clubbing, let's go doing all these things. So, talk to me about that.
So, it just wasn't cool to...
So you just kind of separated from that?
Yeah, and that's when I tried the meth for the first time. That was in the Walmart parking lot. And then after that, it was like almost an everyday thing, until it turned into it being the reason that I ended up going to prison for the 21 months. And I mean, after those 21 months in prison, I was so happy to be home. And like, ever since then, I haven't looked back. Like,
And what was that like, the realization of like your freedom kind of being stripped away from you in that way? Because like, going to prison it's so different from, like, being outside and living your life. Like, what was that? Was that a hard transition for you? Was that scary? Like, how was that? How did you feel in those moments?
It was very scary.
Did you feel alone? Like, how was that to you?
Yeah, and the sad. Well, it might not be a sad thing, but whenever I first got to prison, obviously I'm scared. I've never been to prison before. And that's kind of when I started reading the Bible again, And a lot of people, and now that I think about it, and it is a little cliche, because it's like, people say, oh, now you're in a bad spot, now you want Jesus and God to come help you. And honestly, that kind of was where I was at. I was like, man, I need you to come help take some of this stress and pain from me. Like, why did I do this? And, just I guess just needing somebody to vent to.
I think it's cliche because it's so true. I think God's character, especially Jesus, like there's such a pattern. Like all he ever cared about was being with those who needed him the most, who were at their very low. Like when he said, "It's not the sick who, I mean, it's not the well who need a doctor. It's the sick who need a doctor." And
Mm,
it's like, it's it might be cliche, but maybe it's because that's where he presides the most. Is where people have hit a low or have realized like whatever I've been doing has not been it. And I really love that you're like it is probably cliche, but it is also very beautiful that like that's where he met you. Like he could
yeah.
have met you anywhere. He could have met you like in any high, and he
Hmm.
was there to catch you when you fell. So like, what was that experience? Like, how did you? Was it like you saw a Bible? Was it someone gave you one? Did you ask for one? Like, how did that? Like from the like, where did your relationship with him kind of reconnect?
So before I went to prison, I was in rehab for 11 months, and before I got sent to rehab, a friend of my mom's gave her a Bible and wrote in it, and so I had taken that with me to rehab, and then I was able to also take that with me to prison, so that I had one whenever I had went in, and I just started reading it.
Wow.
That's when my dad really started reading the Bible when he was in prison. Um, that's when he mainly read the Bible because I mean you have nothing but time.
There's nothing but
Yeah.
time. Wow. And do you feel like did you feel like you while you're a time and did you feel like you lost anything while you were in prison? Like do you feel like you lost like just like a time of technology, like how advanced things became, or just like construction outside when you stepped outside new buildings, like your relationship with Sky? Like was there anything that you struggled with um while you were there, or just even when you came out and you were like, oh gosh, like
Just re-entering, learning how to be back into society. The main thing that was lost was the time with Sky, and that's what gives me the most mom guilt.
mm,
Um, but that's that's the big thing to me is the time that I lost with Sky, and but I'm glad it happened honestly because I don't think I would have been able to get clean if I did not go to prison. So I think it would have been, you know,
yeah,
death or
yeah,
something
yeah.
worse. So I think God was intervening for me. Um,
He said we're gonna put you in a little
yeah,
timeout.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, how did you? If you look like looking back now, how can you see God moving in your life? Then, like in the moments where you're like you feel low, but like how do you look back and you're like, oh wow, like I can see Him
Yeah,
moving and like
like whenever the so whenever he first I feel like he intervened was whenever they raided the house, and that's whenever we got all the charges and everything, and that's what started the snowball of going to rehab and then prison. And um that's where he intervened, was me getting into trouble like that, because I
mm,
had been to jail a couple times before that, but it was only for a day or two or a week,
yeah,
something like that, so I think him intervening whenever I was starting to do more things that would have been what that would have got me into more trouble. um he intervened at the time whenever I needed to really be sat down. Yeah, time out. And he gave me 21 months of time out.
He said it.
Yes.
That's
And
incredible.
I
Wow.
mean,
And even in prison, do you feel like looking back, was there anything where you felt Him move, even in that space? Like you said, like you had nothing but time, so you had the Bible with you. Like, is there anything else that you feel, like, even with like the relationships that you made, the
mm,
things that you learned from talking to people and the women you got to meet, and like just the experience itself? Is there anything that you really are grateful for, or even like you feel like gave you so much growth,
mm-hmm.
and all of that? Is there anything like a memory that you cherish, or even a memory that you're just like that was painful, but it's made me who I
Yeah.
am today?
Um, so at the beginning, when I first went to prison, I met the girls that slept beside me. Her name was Bubbles. I can't remember her real name.
I really love that. I love that.
And you know what? Now that I think about it, and even then, it matches her personality so well. And
tell me a little bit about Bubbles.
Yeah.
How did you guys become friends?
So she crocheted. She was always crocheting, and so once I got the nerve to finally ask her, I asked her if she would teach me how to crochet, and that's where our friendship started. And
that's something I've always loved about you, Gabby, is that you are so willing to like ask for guidance and help. Like you have always been so like, hey, quick question, like how do I do this, or I'm really struggling. Like you are so humble when it comes to seeking help. So I really love that it's not something new. This tracks back to before too.
Yeah, like I've always been. If I want to learn something, I'm gonna learn it. You know, whether it be a bad thing that I'm learning or something positive. You know, and
good.
now that we're talking now, I think that part of me I use for good. You know, and for a couple of years I just used it for the wrong thing, and now it's just like.
You know, I've had that conversation with Martin before, is that like a lot of the times people have a tendency to want to blame God for everything, but I always like to say that like there are two forces in play. Like there's God and there's the enemy, you know, and it's in the sense of like God gave you all of these incredible gifts of who you are as a person, and when used for good, you can do great things, but when you're using them for the wrong reasons, you can also do a lot of damage.
Absolutely.
It's just as powerful.
Oh my gosh.
So I always talk about how the enemy can know your strengths and also turn it on you as a weakness. You know, like for example, myself, things that I struggle with is I need order, I need structure, I need to be on it. I'm on the go. I don't have time. And sometimes that can hurt me in my relationships because I don't realize that I'm putting too much of a high expectation on myself.
Yes.
And I'm working myself to the ground. And I'm having expectations for my son or Martin that isn't fair, because like my son is like I might have an expectation of like, all right, come on Austin, let's go, but I have to remember to slow down. I have to remember to like be present with him. Or like me and Martin are opposites. Like I'm more emotional, I'm more driven, I am on it, let's go. Martin is more of like, what's the best way to I always talk about the grocery store with us. Like when I walk into the grocery store, Gabby, I want to get in and I want to get out. I don't want to spend another minute in here. I cannot stand it.
No.
Martin is the type of man to go in there and he'll look at all of the herbs and he'll look at all of the meats and he'll look at like a potato and he's like, look at this potato. This is a really good. Do you know that the history of potatoes? And it drives me insane. I'm like, grab the potato, either put it down or put it in the bag. We're leaving. So he always says that I go to the grocery store like I'm on a war zone. Like I'm go.
Same.
He goes in and he's like, he wants to go through and everyone's very different though. Like I know that I've met people who, I have friends and even coworkers who will say like, oh, I love going to the grocery store. Like Shannon, I think, said, that's me time.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I hate it too.
I hate it. I can't do it.
Me
So
too,
like,
girl.
sometimes I feel like the enemy knows our weaknesses and our strengths. Sometimes he can use our strengths to hurt the ones we love and we don't really realize it, you know.
By Martin asking you to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, I swear. Yes, that drives me.
Just because we work beside a grocery store.
Every time. And it's funny because like Martin's strength, this is one of the things that I love about him. His strength is caring for other people. I mean, immediately as soon as you walk through the door, he's like, Gabby, do you want something to eat?
Yes.
Gabby, do you want something to drink? Like Martin is someone who is, what can I do for you? 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 But it hurts him because he will never turn it on himself. Yeah. He won't take care of himself.
For what you could do for him.
Yes. Like he is, I'm fine. So it's a weakness too, because before Martin would never hurt anyone. Before he could have hurt someone, he would first hurt himself before he would hurt anyone else. So like, we have so many qualities about ourselves, and like I said, like sometimes we like to blame God, but there's two factors. You know, we have the choice to make the decisions that we make, and God will interfere. Yes. Sometimes God's got to be like, you gotta sit down. Yeah. But we also, like, God gave us all these incredible like the qualities that we have. Now, if the enemy chooses to convince us to use it free, because like there's something that you said a while ago when you said the Walmart parking lot, when you were like, you felt like you look back and you're like, I knew better, but I still didn't do better. And a lot of the times I talk about how you knew better, and your conscience, right? Your conscience, that voice inside of you was like, hey, don't. But your ability of competitiveness, of putting your foot down, of like, I can do it because everyone else is doing it. I can do it. Watch me pop off. And so I see that as like we have that like that little angel and like the little devil on our shoulders. One is saying go for it, the other one's saying no. I've always talked about like everyone happens to have that little voice in the back of our heads, or in the back of our minds, like whispering something to us. Call it intuition, call it whatever you want to call it, but like it's funny how like we all have it. We all have this little voice making us want to do the right thing, and it's not forcing us. It's just like, hey, this might not be the thing you want to do right now. So
it's just letting us know, know, this is not the right thing to
so
do.
Everyone has that voice, and everyone still chooses to do what they want to do. So yeah, like you're right. Like you look back and you're like all of these qualities that you have, and God can work with anything, but like the enemy, if you let him, can also work with it too. And it's like that, the importance of that. So yeah, like you saying that just caught my attention, and I really love hearing you talk about it, and like you were talking about bubbles. Let's go back to bubbles.
Okay. Yeah. I also wanted to point out, like, also with the qualities that God does, that he gave me anyways, I'm seeing them now, like you said, like, or like I said, I can't even remember now.
I know,
but I still have the same ones I had whenever I was using or in active addiction, except like you said, I'm just putting them to good use now. And I mean, no. But bubbles, yes. So I asked her to teach me, if she could teach me how to crochet, and she said yes, and she taught me how to crochet like just the basic stitches at first, and then she taught me how to read a graph or a pattern, and I was having my grandmother send me in yarn, and I made Skylar's first blanket. I made a couple of blankets. I made a super big Bob Marley blanket. It's pretty amazing. Oh, nice. I'm going to get my mom to send me the picture.
I want it. So that when your podcast publishes, I want to post it too.
I would love that. Yes. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. Took me like 2 months to crochet, but
hey, it's about Marley.
Yeah, it was awesome.
When you made Skylar's blanket, was there a moment where you were like happy but sad because you were so excited to give it to her, but also you had to wait?
Yeah, it was sad because it was sad crocheting it just because, just being away from her. But being able to give it to her, knowing that I was also trying to get it done super fast so I could give it to her as soon.
Yeah.
I was so excited about it too. But also knowing she would have that while I was gone. And she still has it. We have it hanging on a blanket ladder at the house in her room.
I love that.
Yeah.
Does she talk about it?
Yeah, she loves it. She has I crocheted her like a bunch of stuffed animals, all the stuff you can do with yarn. I did it and sent it home to her.
I love that. Right. Were you allowed visitation?
Yes.
What was that like? Were you okay? Because I've heard people say like, oh, I would never let anyone visit me. I've had other people say like, oh, I need visits. Like, what was that like for you?
Oh, the visits definitely kept me going, and I'm so thankful. My great grandfather, the preacher, he visited me there.
Wow, that's amazing.
His first time ever in a prison.
Oh, that's sweet that he came out. His first time ever in a prison to meet. Dang, y'all live like that?
Oh my God. He's passed away now, but.
Oh, Gabby. That's amazing, though, that you can say that he met you in that space.
And I have a photo.
Wow.
We were allowed to take photos. We had to pay for them. It was like $3 for one copy or $5 for two.
Nothing on the legal system, but wow. The government, anything to get $1 out of you. That's just... Wow.
Oh, I'm so thankful for that photo, though.
That's amazing. And so, like, were you nervous? Did you know he was going to be visiting you?
Yeah.
Were you nervous? Like, how did you feel having your grandfather visit
It was on
you?
Valentine's Day. It was Valentine's Day. When 2000... Hold on. I got out 2019, so 17, 2018. I think it was Valentine's Day, something like that. It was like a year after I had already been in there.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I knew he was coming. I was nervous. I had somebody do my hair for me, like do my
Aw.
makeup. He came with my mama. Who else was there? I think my mom might have been. Yeah, my mom was there.
What was that like for you? Were you already sitting waiting for them, or were they sitting waiting for you?
They're seated waiting for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're in there first,
Wow. Do
and
you
then
remember like when you walked up, like the feelings you were feeling, the things that were said, like at least the first interaction?
we're allowed. We were allowed to do like a quick hug, and we just sat down. That was the first time I had seen Papa Rich since I had been since everything had happened, and he
Yeah, Gabby, take your time. When you think about this, is it just like do you feel overwhelming love or just like
with love.
love? Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so glad that you when you think back to it, it's love. Yeah. Here, how about we take a quick break
Yeah.
so that you can let your feelings process, and then we'll jump back in. Okay, so we're back. We went from our break. So yeah, let's pick up where we left off. See,
Yes.
walking up and the emotions you felt. Like you said, you were feeling love in that moment. So yeah, what was the first thing
Yeah.
you felt, and what did you hear him say, or what did you say?
I was so excited and nervous, Um, and I was just overwhelmed with love, and I felt loved.
Yeah.
Because he never once judged me. He never once even brung it up. I mean,
Wow. So he never like had a moment where he like passively aggressively was
no,
like, "Wow,
no.
that's beautiful."
He was not that type of man. And I'm thankful for that, because I think whenever it's vice versa, like the other way around, like I feel like if he would have, because I was so excited to see him, if he would have straight off the bat been like, now you shouldn't have done this, blah blah, that would have just shut me down
That would have
completely.
broken you. Yeah, you would have been
Yeah,
like, "There's nothing."
yeah,
But yeah,
exactly. And my whole family's like that. I have a good family.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
it's
Support, I hear, is such an important thing.
yes, and I've saw several women in there that didn't have nobody, and it is sad.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't know their story or their family's story of why they're not communicating with them anymore. So
Yeah.
you know,
Wow.
but for me, I'm very thankful I had my family.
Yeah.
And
Did he hug you like when you walked up?
yes,
Aw.
yeah, we hugged.
Must have felt really good.
Yeah, it did.
Wow. Wow.
Because you never realize how much you miss,
Yeah.
contact with somebody,
You love
yeah.
that
So,
embrace, that
mhm.
support, that genuine like hug of like I'm here for
Yes.
you. That's
Things we
amazing.
take for granted,
Wow.
for sure.
How often were you given visitation?
Um, I was thinking about that. I can't really remember. I want to say like once a month. It
Wow.
was possible, or no, they had visitation every weekend, but I think I had somebody come visit me maybe once a month, maybe sometimes more.
Yeah.
Um,
And did you look forward to it?
yes, always.
Yeah. You're like without hesitation.
And whenever I started crocheting, I was able to pack things up and have them, whenever they would come visit, I could send things home. So
Aw.
Skylar literally, oh my gosh, she brought home a giant box from her dad's the other day, and it had literally every single thing I've ever crocheted for her
Wow.
in that box.
How
And
did
we
that
just-
feel seeing
It was awesome. Like, we sat down and went through it together, and she told me like all the stuff she liked and what stuff scared her.
scared?
She was like, "This animal was kind of creepy, Mom."
I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh.
But she really, like, she cherishes that stuff,
Wow.
like,
That's amazing.
and she knows all about it. We talk about it, and she knows like, I inform her about it because
I mean, communication and transparency with your children is so important.
yeah, and like, just the fact that addiction does run in my family,
Yeah.
so she needs to be aware of that as well, because I saw it growing up, but I was never talked to about it.
Mm,
Like my dad's a really bad alcoholic.
yeah.
My aunt and some family members struggle with, depression, bipolar. Um, so there's some underlying issues there, but for the most part, I try to stay very honest with her about, what happened. I don't go into full detail, but enough
Mm.
for her to know, like, well, I don't want to do that, and um,
I don't want to make those same mistakes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So she
Giving her the
knows.
strength to say no,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly, and we're very close now, and man, the time I have with her now, I just that's my like that's the most special time to me.
Yeah, that's such a gift too because you went from where you were and like now you like this is something I value. This is
Yes.
priceless.
Yeah.
You can't take this from me. So how did you how what is the toll of like sobering up? Like and what was that like in prison? Like did you deal with anything? Like get any headaches or was it like easier for you? Like what was that like? Physically,
Um,
mentally, just
I think for me it wasn't as much physical withdrawal as mental because I don't know, it really took a toll on like my mental health. I would
mm,
say just because I relied on it so much to just cancel out, just past relationships with, boyfriends and stuff like that and just stuff I had done. So that's where it came in. And then when I didn't have it, it was like I'm having to like really think about these things and,
reflect.
yeah, reflect exactly.
Yeah.
And man, that is stressful.
Girl,
And
I know.
it,
You look back and you're like, ooh, that's
yeah,
weird looking
yeah.
back into it.
So I think it was definitely more mentally draining, because I'm a very empathetic person. I feel how
Yeah.
others feel. So,
Girl, I relate to that hard. You know, Ashley
man,
R relates to that.
yes, and it
Mhm.
it it can really drain you and um
It
just
can, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
being
To
in
wait.
prison away. I mean, I thought about my family a lot. Like I felt very guilty because I mean, I know how stressful it was for them while I was away. Having to
Mm-hmm.
put money on my books or to send me this and I know they expected or maybe thought I expected them to answer every phone call or, I know it's not easy for the family on the outside. So,
Wow. Yeah.
it's just,
That's
yeah,
incredible.
very
Yeah.
mentally and
Yeah.
emotionally draining.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. And when it was coming up to your release date, like were you feeling worried? I mean, I know that you must have been excited to leave, but were you also like you're also leaving these group of people that you've grown close with in this
hmm
community that you've immersed yourself in and like just this life that you've become accustomed to. Like what was that like transitioning out of prison or like leading up to coming out?
So, I don't know how it was like back in the day or whatever, but now when in prison, you have to have a home plan
Mm,
before you're released or you can't be released.
yeah.
And I knew I didn't want to go back home. I knew I wanted to go to, I guess like a rehab place or transitional house.
Yeah.
So I found a place called Benevolence Farm in Graham, North Carolina, and it's you work on the farm to live to pay
Oh,
your rent and stuff,
yeah.
and they get you into rehabilitation classes like um I took a couple of classes with them, like therapy classes, like women's support groups. Like they took me to meetings, and I stayed there for 7 months after I got out of prison. Hold on, right? Oh, 5 months, 5 or 6 months after I got out of prison, and that's when I moved in with Grant.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I knew I was not going back to doing anything. I knew I needed to go somewhere with structure because, like you said, I'm a structure type of person. Like,
Yeah.
I like a schedule and I like to be busy. And
And you're
so,
held accountable too. That's
yeah.
something I thrive
And
on.
I've always liked hard physical labor. So I was like, they actually came up at the time I was in prison in West North Carolina, Western North Carolina, up like towards Asheville. And they came up from Graham to interview me to see if they wanted me to live in the home.
Yeah.
And I was accepted and everything, but they warned me, like, it's a lot of physical labor. You're working on a farm. Like, have you ever done any farm work? I had never worked on a farm, but I knew I loved physical labor, so I did it. And I think that's kind of what possibly started my fitness journey, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
Now that I think about it. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
And so, moving from that and stepping back into the world, like, what was that like? Like, what was your, like, having Sky back into your life and all of that? What was that like?
That was amazing, but also overwhelming because I hadn't been a mom,
Yeah.
you know, for 2 years. And, girl, being a mom is hard as heck.
Girl.
Oh my
I
gosh.
know. It's when you fantasize about being a mom or daydream about being a mom, you think about all the fun things. Like, we're going to do all these cute, fun stuff.
Right.
But you forget about, like, the tantrums or, like, the accidents or the writing on the wall or the things that are just come with kids and them
Yes.
literally learning, existing in a world and also not
Mhm.
having time to yourself and, like readjustment. So I imagine that must have been.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, I didn't have to take care of anybody but myself. So, having to throw Sky into the mix, that definitely, it was amazing, but just stressful.
Yeah. Kind of stepping in and being a mom, too.
Mhm.
Because I know
Yeah.
that you also must have had this high expectation of, like, I can't step away. I can't
Oh.
take a break because I've taken a break already.
Right.
Like, this is, and it wasn't in reality. It wasn't a break.
Right.
It was rehabilitation, and
Right.
that's not a break. That's hard.
Right.
But I imagine that must have been hard. Of like, I can't have a moment to myself because I've been gone for so long.
Mhm.
How can
And
I?
if I do, I feel bad,
Yeah.
you
yeah.
know, so. And then it's also the fact just doing anything to make sure she's happy, which is not good.
Yeah.
It's called spoiling.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so, Grant and you, like, did you guys immediately hit it off? Like, did you like him at first, or were you like, ugh, this guy?
I did like him at first, but he was not my type.
Yeah.
Yeah. But his kindness and he always makes me laugh. Oh my gosh.
Gabby, you have such an amazing sense of humor. I think that's why you and me immediately clicked, was because I was helping Shannon one Friday,
Oh,
and you were
yeah.
doing something in the back room, and I was in the back room, and I said something. I was trying to be funny.
I think we had a shadow there or something.
Yeah,
You had a
something.
syndrome.
Something happened, and you said something, and then I said something, and you started laughing. But you laughed harder than I thought anyone would laugh at my joke. Like, you were just cackling. And I said, oh, I like her. Like, this has never been this easy to make somebody laugh. And you just kept laughing at my jokes. And I remember you opened the door and your head went back. You're like, ah, ha, 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 and you walked out. And I was like, I like her.
Oh my god.
And so,
Look, like my niece Madeline says, she's 7. She's like, Gabby, why do you always laugh at everything I say? So I laugh at almost anything.
but that's one of my favorite things about you, is because when you and me are around each other, like, I can say whatever on my mind, and like we just bounce off back and forth.
Yeah.
And like, I love that about you. It's one of my favorite qualities about you, is just your sense of humor.
Thanks.
And like your joy. And
Thank
it's like,
you.
it's so beautiful because after everything you've been through, your joy remains, you know? And if anything, I feel like it's gotten stronger because you've learned to value all of that. So,
Beautifully said. Oh my gosh, you're gonna make me cry.
well, I'm glad that
That's so true.
you're getting your tears out, and that's good. The reflection is so good. I'm glad that Grant's kindness is what won your heart, because a lot of the times we do focus on someone's looks and what they have to offer physically, and then when we get past the physical, we're like, ooh, what's under the hood is not nice. There's like there's like a weird transmission. There's like a Honda transmission and a Toyota. Like, this is all mixed up. So, but yeah, I really love that you fell in love with who Grant is, and not
Yeah. He is
the
amazing.
type that Grant, is. But that's amazing. So what made you want to become a stylist? Let's get into that.
Yeah, so just being a stylist, I mean, you can just be so creative, and I've always been an artsy fartsy type of person. Like, I love doing anything creative. My dad, when he was in prison, he used to send me home drawings, like just the
Aw.
most randomest drawings, like
Just like you sent Sky
Yeah,
crochets. Wow.
and he just drew beautifully, and I don't know, maybe that came down a little bit to me. So I just really, and my mom is really artsy fartsy.
Aw.
Yeah, she's amazing. Um, and I think I got a little bit of that, but it started with culinary school. I started doing that. I wasn't in love with it. I love to cook at home, but not for.
You say this isn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
The
So-
Juliet cut and all this stuff that they talk about.
Huh?
You know how they talk about like the Juliet cut?
Oh
Something
yeah,
like that.
the Juliet. Yep. That's funny. And then I thought about hair school because when I met Grant, he's a barber.
Yeah.
And he's been a barber for forever. And I didn't want to be a barber. I knew that. But I was like, oh, hair, that looks fun. And we were living in Greenville at the time, and they had a hair school there. So I decided to go.
What was your experience in hair school? Like, you like it?
Girl, I loved it. I met two of my bestest friends there.
Aw.
They were in my wedding last year.
Aw, I love
Quit
that.
it, bro. I love them.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've met some of my closest friends in cosmetology school
Yes,
too.
and-
I mean, I love them. Like,
Yeah.
they've literally, Tanisha, if it hadn't been for her, like, I didn't have a car.
Aw.
And she literally drove me every single day to cosmetology school. I would not have my license had she not done that.
Oh
I'm
my
convinced.
gosh.
Like, I love her to
See,
death.
I love that.
And like just Brittany and Kiana, like they're incredible, loving people. So I'm just really grateful for the friends that
Yeah.
I've gotten. So I relate to that.
Yes.
So up until this point, did your relationship with God reconcile? Like, look, where were you in this point? Like,
So at this point, I wasn't super connected with God, but I talked to him every morning in my own way, you know,
yeah,
at work or at the
personalized
gym.
to your
Yes,
relationship with him. Because like
yes.
my relationship with Martin doesn't look anything like your relationship with Grant.
Right,
I hope
right.
not.
Right.
I don't know what you guys do, but I would like some uniqueness in my relationship.
Yes, same.
Yeah.
I love how you just put that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is no.
Yeah.
I always like to remind, at least myself, that my relationship does not have to be a reflection of a pastor or of another
Yeah.
mom or
Yes.
another guy or a teenager. Like, it's very similar to your relationship with your friendships and the people that you're with. It's like your relationship with God is uniquely yours
Yes.
because only you have walked on that journey with God, and only you have been through the things that you've been through, and only you were put in that specific timeout that He placed you in.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah. So talk to me about that.
Yes.
You were saying like woke up every morning.
I would say he's in my life today. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Like in my way, like being able to speak to him, you know, being more open or more comfortable just randomly in the car.
Yeah.
You know, just talking to myself, not even to myself, to God. Like I don't read a Bible every day or anything like that, but I do have a scripture on my phone and stuff like that.
Yeah. And God can make Himself known in anyone's life, and I think it's beautiful because what works best for you too,
Mhm.
and like it's amazing because your relationship with God, like whether you're driving and talking to Him, and like it's not like reading the Bible every day. That's more for like growth, like
Mhm.
spiritually growing in like the knowledge of the Bible and knowing God and His character in the Bible. But like also, a lot of the times people think they need to read the Bible forward and backwards to know or to have a relationship with God. But like having a piece of scripture that you
Mhm.
hold on to, you know, that you hold on to, and talking to Him and allowing Him to move in your life like that. People overcomplicate it, you know,
Mhm.
they overcomplicate it, and it's kind of like a relationship of like, if you don't do this, 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 and this, and this, like I can't be married to you, I won't be happy.
All these stipulations.
All these
like,
stipulations, but like in reality, like waking up and having like just welcoming. Girl, bear with me.
welcoming.
Yes,
Welcoming.
exactly. Welcoming Him into your life, or just like into your moments where you're struggling, or into the moments where you're rejoicing. Like that is like Sky. You
Yeah.
know, like when Sky comes up to you and shares something with you, like that makes you happy.
Yes.
Right. And it's not
Yeah.
like when Sky messes up, it's not like you're not my daughter anymore.
Right. No,
It's more of
definitely
like,
not.
girl, come here. Like
Right.
I am so excited to help you pass this and help you kind of grow from this. And it's so nice when Sky hugs you, not out of obligation, but out of love. And so that's
Yes.
what you're doing. Like when you seek Him out, it's out of love. And you recognize what He's done in your life, how
Absolutely.
He's moved in your
Oh my
life.
gosh.
Looking back now, you're like, wow, you know, like,
He saved me.
yeah, wow. That's beautiful. Those words right there. He saved you.
Yeah.
And that is, And I know that like it just must make his heart dance with so much joy
I love
for
that.
you to for
Just like picturing it.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. But it's breakdancing. It's on its head flipping, MTV style.
Girl,
Yeah.
you showing our age.
I know. Oh my gosh, just sure. But that was a bad influence on a whole nother
Yes.
level. But it's beautiful. Again, like your relationship with God is completely curated to fit you and your personality and what you
Yes.
can handle. And the Lord will meet you with just saying His name and just calling out to Him and like
And he does.
and like just you saying like He saved me, like that, girl. Like your life is proof of all of that.
Mhm.
And like I am so blessed to know you. Like
I feel
how
the same.
how did you come to Poppy? Talk to me about that. We got to hit on that
Yeah.
before we finish
So,
the episode.
We were living in Greenville at the time. I had just graduated cosmetology.
Whipping it in the streets in Greenville.
Yep, I graduated cosmetology school July of, oh my gosh, 19. Was it July? No.
Was it before or after the pandemic?
It was
That's
during the pandemic.
Okay, that's the best way to figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know. It was July.
It was July.
It was a July.
A sunny July.
Yes, and we moved back home to Durham in September, and I had asked somebody in Greenville that had taught a class I went to. I was like, "Do you know of any salons in Durham that do like an associate's program?" I knew I wanted to go after school. I wanted to be an associate or work under somebody because
education.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me the name of Poppy Salon. That was one of the names they gave me, and I emailed, and y'all emailed me back, and that's when
Y'all.
right. And I remember it was Maddie, Shannon, Giselle, and Ashley R. They all interviewed me. I think they were in Charlotte or something.
Yeah, they were. They were like I think like a summit. Thing.
Yeah. And I was so nervous. It was a web interview, and I was so nervous. But Maddie said, as soon as I hung up, I said, she's a poppy seed.
I love that. And I mean, that's I love where we work.
Me
there is no
too.
better place to work for Shannon, like
No
a collector
better
of people, but like she collects you. She doesn't collect your past.
Right.
She doesn't care. Like you, and I mean this in the nicest way possible. You could have murdered somebody.
Right.
But Shannon would look at you and be like, "Are you sorry?
Right.
Are you really sorry? If you are, then hop on the train, kid." Like, and Shannon is a beautiful example of like loving people for who they are.
Yes.
And caring about them and uplifting them. Like Shannon wants like our one-on-ones, like to take the time to meet with all of us.
Yes. Oh my
one by
gosh.
one by one to talk to us and talk about what we want to do or
Our
talk about what we're
goals, like,
aspiring, who we want to be, how much we want to make. Like she doesn't have to do that, yet she takes time out of her day. And yeah, like what was it like after joining Poppy?
Girl, I ain't looked back since.
Wow.
Let me tell you, because the associates program, like I said, I love hard work. So the associates program,
I know they grabbed you
fit
and
me
said
like
it's
a
perfect.
glove. Yes, like I was actually
Thrive.
ours associate, but mainly Giselle.
Yeah.
Shout out to Giselle. I remember my
like
first day there.
Giselle.
She was like, "You know how to do a blowout?" I said, "Yeah, girl." She was like, "Show me," and I did it on the mannequin. She was like, "Oh no."
That ain't it, chick. That ain't it.
Yes.
That's what I love about Giselle. She's like,
she's gonna give it to you raw.
She's that TikTok where it's like, hold my hand. We go now. We're going now. Keep holding my hand. Keep holding my hand. That's who Giselle is.
But I mean, I ain't looked back. I don't see myself working anywhere else. I love it. I'm so happy. I love coming to work. Even on days when I wake up and I'm like, man, I could really call out today. But when I get to work, I'm like, man, I'm so happy I came.
Yeah,
my
like
clients, I love my clients.
Yes.
Like, when just being able to look at my schedule and knowing that those clients have stayed with me because of who I am. I mean, it's a
satisfying.
booster for your
like, wow, you like what I did and you're coming back for more.
It's like, ooh, girl.
I'm so happy. I agree. Coming into work, and having your spirits lifted by the people you're surrounded with.
Yes.
In the Bible it talks about how
huge.
important community is. Like the Bible talks about how like by yourself, you can't do much, but with community, it's so important. So God made us so that we would be in community, and I think the community that Poppy has created is it's a non-judgmental community.
Absolutely.
It's a supportive community, and it's you walk in, and whatever you had on your mind is completely melted away because your coworkers are giggling away and laughing and going about their day. We're a melting pot. It's hot in here, but we're a melting pot. I love it. It's been so nice to get to meet you, Gabby, and I think it's been such a blessing that you work right next to me. Yes. Like on Tuesdays, we don't even talk, but we're whipping
we're
it.
So when we finally get like, how's your day going?
Yeah, I know. Like, oof, girl, I need a drink of water. Get an energy drink. You want an energy drink? Like I love everyone at Puppy Salon, but I am just so grateful that we've met you, Gabby. Like, you are just such an incredible person, but like, you are such an amazing example, like you walk in and you're ready to go. You put the hard work in, the same amount of effort that you came in with on day one, you still carry, if not have made it stronger by where you are now. Like, I love you. I mean, girl, like I am so grateful for you. I'm grateful for Poppy, and I'm grateful that God has done so much with your pain. Girl. Yeah, like man. This is what God has done with your pain. This is incredible. Like, if you could look back to like Gabby and just tell her like, oh girl, like you're not gonna believe what God is gonna do with what you're currently going through. I would not believe it. I know. I think the same thing. I'd be, girl, you're crazy. I'd be like, girl, you don't even know how to do math. How you gonna be a hairstylist? Yes. Like, you don't even know how to do makeup. Like, there's always those things that try to keep you from that little voice that tries to talk down. But yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I always say, one of the things I'll tell people, even my clients, it's like, you've been through worse, yet you're still here. So, like, this is probably nothing compared to what you deal with. That's right. Anything we deal with tomorrow we've survived much greater things. And, like, God is so graceful and so loving and so supportive. And, like, his, oh, gosh, I hate when I forget things. My memory. No. His mercy is true, and that's his foundation is just loving you regardless of you. And I think your grandfather is a perfect embodiment. I wish you could have met him. I would have loved to met Gabby. Me and him would have been the besties. Yes. Probably, you know what? We're probably good that we wouldn't have. We would have been unstoppable. Y'all would have been inseparable. We're inseparable. I would coming over for watching a movie. Have you seen Passion of the Christ? Let's go. Let's have movie night. Oh my God. Yeah, I am so grateful, and I've told Shannon so many times, like, you can fire me, but I'm still gonna roll up the next day. I'm still showing up for work, and I'm gonna be one of three things is gonna happen. Either I'm gonna still show up and pretend like you had a bad dream. I'm going to show up in a mustache and say, I know y'all have a new opening. Imposter. And then I'm going to show up and I'm going to say, are y'all hiring for front desk? Because you fired me as a stylist. You did not fire me as a front desk. That's right. So, and lastly, not least, are y'all hiring a cleaning lady? Are you hiring a cleaning lady? Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much, Gabby, for coming on to the podcast. And you're always welcome back. Yes. If down the road you're like, I got updates. Yeah. Come back. I welcome you to come back. I'm so grateful. I hope that if there's anyone who listened to this and felt seen and felt like, wow, like if Gabriela can go through all of that, and can make it to where she is now and believe in herself, and also like have all of that she has now, and have the positivity that maybe I can do it too. And like, even just for them to feel seen, like, wow, I thought I was the only one who struggled with that. I thought I was the only mom who felt like I lost time. I thought I was the only person who struggled with a drug addiction, or like the mental strain that puts, or I thought I was the only one who had a background in prison, and I hope this reaches Bubbles. Yeah. I hope this gets to Bubbles. I hope that one day somebody gets this podcast. Like, don't you know this girl? I think they call you Bubbles. Yeah. But I just hope that this reaches whoever it needs to reach. And I'm just so grateful, Gabby. And I know that your story is going to move so many people, whether they struggle with the same struggles or just so grateful that you are willing to be so open. I am so incredibly grateful for you. Thank you so much. Love you. Love you too. And on our next podcast, who knows who I'll be interviewing, but I'm very excited. Everyone has such a fun, different story. Thank you so much for listening to What God Has Done With My Pain. As always, a huge shout out to Lazuli for her song No Greater Love that has helped make this podcast come to life. You can find her on Spotify and Instagram at Lazuli PROJ and at We The New Breed, where you'll find artists using their gifts to glorify God. Swing by at What Way This Way on Instagram to catch some behind-the-scenes snippets. Make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss a single interview. In the meantime, I would love to hear from you on social media or email. Until the next episode.